My name is Clara Bennett. I'm 31 years old. 8 weeks ago, I gave my own father my left kidney and saved his life. On November 23rd, at his big recovery dinner, my mother stood up with a wide smile, raised her glass and announced to the room, "To Rebecca, my extraordinary daughter, the one who saved your father's life with her fundraiser." 22 relatives erupted into cheers and applause. Not a single person looked at me. I sat there with a fresh surgical scar burning on my left side, 8 weeks of unpaid medical bills, an empty bank account, and a body that will never be quite the same again. While my own mother erased the kidney I had donated like it had never happened at all. Then my father suddenly reached under the table and grabbed my wrist. His eyes were filled with shame. He slid a folded napkin toward me without a word. What I read on that napkin changed everything. And when my mother and sister finally discovered the truth weeks later, our entire family didn't just fracture, it completely exploded. If you're watching this right now, please hit subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. I read every single one. But first, let me take you back to the very beginning of what it means to be invisible inside your own family. I work at a small non-profit in Charlotte called Second Chance Scholars. We help first-generation college students navigate financial aid applications. My annual salary is $37,000. I live in a studio apartment 20 minutes from my parents' house. My mother invites me over maybe 4 or 5 times a year. My sister Rebecca is 36. She's the VP of Operations at Bennett Medical Distributors, the company my father founded back in 1998. She earns $190,000 annually. She has a husband, 2 kids, a large house in the suburbs, and our mother's complete, undivided attention. When Rebecca joined the company in 2015, my mother announced at Sunday dinner, "Finally, someone who truly understands what building a legacy means." I had just completed my master's degree in healthcare administration that same year. Nobody asked whether I'd like to interview for a position. I stopped attending most family events back in 2023. The Christmas dinners where I was still seated at the children's table despite being 30 years old. The birthday gatherings where my mother forgot to get me a card. The company milestones where I simply wasn't invited because, as my mother put it, it's really just for the employees and board members. But on July 20th, 2025, someone still had my phone number. My father collapsed at the company's anniversary gala. 200 guests, black tie, speeches about growth and family values and legacy. I wasn't invited. I found out about it from a LinkedIn post Rebecca made the following morning. At 9:47 that same evening, my cousin Julia texted me, "Your dad collapsed. They're taking him to St. Michael's Hospital. Thought you should know." I was eating leftover pasta in my apartment, watching a cooking show. I changed clothes and drove 25 minutes to the hospital. I arrived at 10:31 p.m. My mother and Rebecca were already in the ER waiting room, heads together, whispering quietly. When my mother looked up and saw me walk in, her face didn't show relief. It showed annoyance. I walked over. "How is he?" "They're running tests," my mother said flatly. "It's his kidneys. We're waiting for the nephrologist." Rebecca barely looked up from her phone. I sat 3 chairs away from them. No one spoke to me. 45 minutes later, a doctor came out and addressed my mother directly. I strained to hear from where I was sitting. Stage 4 kidney failure. He would need a transplant within 6 to 8 weeks or face dialysis for the rest of his life. Family members would need to be tested for compatibility. A living donor was ideal if they could find a match. My mother glanced toward Rebecca. "We'll do whatever it takes." I wasn't included in "we." When they finally let us see him briefly, my mother and Rebecca went in together. I waited outside. When they came back out, my mother said, "You can go in if you want, but don't tire him out." I walked toward his room and heard his voice through the door. "Weak. Searching. Is Clara here?" My mother hadn't answered him. I pushed open the door. My father was connected to monitors, 4 lines, an oxygen feed. His skin had a gray, waxy quality that frightened me. When he saw me standing in the doorway, tears immediately filled his eyes. "I thought you'd come," he said. "Of course I came, Dad." "Your mother said," he paused. "She said you were probably busy. That you don't really stay involved with family matters anymore." I understood in that moment. My mother had been telling him I was the one who had pulled away. "I'm here," I said. I took his hand. "I'm not going anywhere." He squeezed my fingers tightly. "They said I need a new kidney. I don't want to ask either of you girls to do that. I'll get tested tomorrow, Dad. First thing." "You don't have to." "I want to." As I left his room, I passed my mother and Rebecca in the hallway. I caught my mother whispering to my sister, "She'll probably test and then back out. You know how she is when things get difficult." I kept walking. My hands were shaking. The next morning, I called the transplant coordinator at St. Michael's Hospital. "My name is Clara Bennett. My father, Thomas Bennett, was admitted last night with kidney failure. I want to be tested as a potential living donor. Can you come in this afternoon at 2 o'clock? "I'll be there." I didn't tell my mother or Rebecca. 1 week later, on July 28th, I got the call. "Ms. Bennett, you're a compatible match. Blood type O positive, tissue compatibility at 97%, excellent kidney function. You're an ideal donor candidate." I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage and cried. Relief and dread knotted together in my chest simultaneously. I called my father directly. "Dad, I got tested. I'm a match. I want to donate." His voice broke immediately. "Clara, you don't have to do this." "I know. I want to." A long silence stretched between us. "Your mother is going to have opinions about this," he finally said. "Let her." 2 days later, my mother called a formal family meeting at their house. All 4 of us around the dining table. My mother opened with, "We need to discuss Thomas's transplant options." "I'm a compatible donor," I said. "I'm willing to donate." Silence fell over the room. My mother stared at me. "You tested without telling the family." I wanted to be certain before saying anything. Rebecca cut in immediately. "I was going to get tested this week." It was a lie. She hadn't scheduled a single appointment. My mother turned to my father. "Thomas, what do you think? Do you want Clara to do this?" "If she's willing," my father said quietly, "and she's a match, I don't want to wait for a cadaver donor. The list is 2 years long." My mother's jaw tightened. "We could look for another living donor. A friend, a colleague. Someone who isn't your daughter." I looked at her directly. "Why? I'm a perfect match. I'm willing. What exactly is the problem?" She looked me straight in the eye. "The problem, Clara, is that you've never finished anything truly difficult in your entire life." I drove home in silence. But my father called me that same night. "Clara, if you're sure, then let's move forward. I trust you." 3 days later, Rebecca called me. "Unusual. Since you're donating," she said, "I want to do something meaningful to help. I'm organizing a fundraiser. Kidney disease awareness. We can raise money for research and offset Dad's medical costs." Something about her tone made me uneasy. But I said, "That's a generous idea. I'm thinking a charity gala. Corporate sponsors. Local press coverage. Turn this into something positive for the whole community. Your name will absolutely be part of the narrative, Clara." A week later, I searched for Rebecca's fundraiser online. I found the preliminary event listing immediately. The Rebecca Bennett Harmon Kidney Health Initiative. Supporting the Bennett family. My name did not appear anywhere in the description. On August 18th, I completed my final pre-op psychological evaluation with a hospital social worker named Sandra Mills. Standard questions about my support network, my motivations, my understanding of the physical risks involved. Then Sandra asked, "Have you felt any pressure from your family to donate?" "No," I said. "This is entirely my choice." "And do you feel genuinely seen and appreciated by your family for this decision?" I paused too long. Sandra made a note. What I didn't know until much later was that on that same afternoon, my mother had visited Sandra's office privately. The night before surgery, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through Rebecca's social media. Photos of her at fundraiser planning meetings. Captions like, "Doing everything I possibly can for Dad." The knot in my stomach tightened with each one. At 11 o'clock, my father called. "Clara, are you awake?" "Yes, Dad." "You can still back out. No one will blame you." "I'm not backing out." "When you wake up tomorrow, you're going to be in real pain. And you'll be okay because of me." "I can live with that." A brief silence. "Promise me something," I said. "Anything. Don't let them erase this. Don't let Mom reframe this into something it isn't." A long pause followed. "I won't," he said finally. "I promise." September 15th, 2025. 5:30 in the morning. I arrived at the hospital while it was still dark outside. My mother and Rebecca were already in the pre-op waiting area. I heard Rebecca on her phone as I walked in. "Yes, the surgery's today. I'll have a statement ready after the fundraiser." She was already crafting the narrative. At 6:15, I was in a pre-op gown with an 4 in my arm. My father was wheeled past me on his way to his operating room. We made eye contact. He mouthed, "Thank you." My mother and Rebecca stopped by my bay for approximately 30 seconds. "Good luck," my mother said. "You're so brave," Rebecca said. Then they both left. The anesthesiologist told me to count backward from 10. I reached 7. I woke up at 2:17 in the afternoon. Searing pain in my left side. My throat was too dry to call out properly. I realized I was alone in the recovery bay. For the next several hours, nurses checked my vitals on a rotating schedule. At 4 o'clock, one mentioned, almost as an aside, "Your father came through surgery. He's in ICU recovery. Your family is with him now. Could someone come be with me? They're focused on your dad right now. I'll let them know you're asking." No one came. At 8 o'clock that evening, a different nurse came in. Her name tag said Beth. She looked at me for a long, quiet moment. "Honey, is there someone I can call for you? You really shouldn't be alone after major surgery." "My family's here," I said. "They're just with my dad." Beth's expression shifted. "Your mom and sister have been in your father's ICU room since 3 o'clock. They know you're awake, right?" "I think so." "Want me to go get them?" "No. He needs them more right now." Beth looked at me steadily. "That's not how this is supposed to work, sweetheart." At 9:30 that night, my mother finally appeared at the foot of my bed. "They're moving you to a room. Kenneth, Thomas, is stable. Everything went well." "How is he?" "Better than expected. The kidney started functioning immediately. Dr. Patel said it's a perfect match." I waited. "Get some rest," my mother said. "We'll check on you tomorrow." She left. No one had said thank you. At 2:50 in the morning, my door opened quietly. My father was in a wheelchair, pushed slowly by a night nurse. He had an oxygen tank attached. He looked exhausted and fragile, but he was there. He had come. "I told them I needed to see you," he whispered. The nurse said 5 minutes. "He's not supposed to be out of ICU." He wheeled his chair as close to my bed as he could get. He took my hand. He was crying. "I see you, Clara." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I've always seen you. And I'm going to make this right. Dad, it's okay." "It's not okay. It has never been okay. The way your mother, the way I allowed her to, I'm going to fix it." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. I should have done it 34 years ago. As the nurse slowly wheeled him back toward the ICU, he said over his shoulder, "Tomorrow morning, some people are coming to see me. An attorney and a social worker. I'm taking care of something." I was too medicated to fully process what he meant. I fell back asleep. What I didn't know was that the following morning, September 16, 2025, my father signed a document in his ICU room. Sandra Mills, the social worker, was present. And a state attorney named Richard Cole was present. His attending physician was there as a witness. My father, still physically weak but entirely lucid, signed a durable power of attorney for healthcare. He changed his medical proxy from my mother to me. Witnessed. Notarized. Time-stamped. 2 days later, on September 18, he signed a second document. A life insurance beneficiary change form. Northwestern National Policy, $2.3 million death benefit. The beneficiary had been my mother for 18 years. He changed it to me. On September 20th, he signed a third document. A restricted stock transfer agreement. My father owned 68% of the company he had founded. He transferred 51% of his voting shares to me. On September 25th, that transfer was officially filed with the state. I knew none of this. I was at home alone, trying to recover. The first 2 weeks were strict bed rest. I couldn't lift anything over 5 pounds. I couldn't drive. I slept 16 hours a day. No one offered to help. My mother called once. "How are you managing?" "Fine. Thomas's kidney function is at 94%. Perfect." She hung up. On day 10, Rebecca texted, "How's recovery going? Fundraiser planning is amazing. So excited about it." Week 2, my supervisor Jennifer called. "Clara, we need to discuss your leave. We don't have paid medical leave provisions for this length of absence. You're at 2 weeks unpaid. How much longer do you anticipate?" The surgeon said 6 to 9 weeks total. "We can hold your position through 8 weeks. After that." I realized I might lose my job. Week 4, I developed a fever of 101 degrees. Another ER visit. Another $1,200 after insurance. I sat down and calculated my total out-of-pocket costs. 9 weeks of unpaid leave, $6,500 in lost wages. Insurance deductible, $2,500. Pre-op tests not covered, $890. The infection ER visit, $1,200. Prescriptions, $340. Total out-of-pocket, over $11,400. My savings account had $3,100 before any of this began. I was now in overdraft. Meanwhile, Rebecca's fundraiser was everywhere. Local news, corporate social media, Instagram stories. The event was held on October 15th at a private country club. I wasn't invited. One published article mentioned, supporting the Bennett family's medical journey. My name did not appear once. I called the charity organization that received the donated funds. "We received $83,200 in October," the representative confirmed cheerfully. "Wonderful contribution." I searched for the corporate press release. I found it dated October 18th. BMD demonstrates corporate social responsibility with $41,600 matching donation to Kidney Health Initiative. VP Rebecca Bennett Harmon spearheaded initiative aligned with company values. I checked Rebecca's LinkedIn profile. She had updated her headline. VP of Operations, Healthcare Advocate, Nonprofit Fundraising Leader. An industry publication from October 22 quoted her directly. "In times of family crisis, true leaders emerge." I knew I had to step up and transform our personal challenge into an opportunity for community impact. I read that sentence 5 times. My father was 64, planning to retire at 65. Succession at the company had been unclear for years. This fundraiser was never about Dad's medical costs. It was Rebecca's audition for the CEO position. On November 15, 2025, 8 weeks after my surgery, Dr. Patel cleared me for normal activity with permanent restrictions. No contact sports. Kidney monitoring every 6 months for the rest of my life. I can never donate an organ again. That same day, I received a text from my mother. Family dinner. Sunday, November 23rd. Post-Thanksgiving celebration of Thomas's recovery. 6 p.m., Harrington Hall private dining room. 22 guests. Cocktail attire. Be there. No please. No, thank you for what you gave us. Just, be there. I stared at the message for 10 full minutes. Then I typed, I'll be there. I didn't know that dinner would change everything. On November 20th, I went shopping for something appropriate to wear. I had lost weight during recovery. Nothing in my closet fit anymore. I bought a navy dress for $85. It was a stretch for my budget. The neckline showed my scar when I moved, 2 inches of pink, raised tissue. I almost returned the dress. Then I decided, let them see what this actually cost. The night before the dinner, I called my father at 10 o'clock. Dad, I need to know. Is Mom going to mention the donation at dinner? A long silence. Clara, I can't control what your mother says. But I can control what happens after. Please trust me. Come tomorrow. Will you say something about the donation? Come tomorrow. That's all I can tell you right now. His voice was shaking. After we hung up, I sat in the dark looking at my navy dress hanging on the closet door. 22 people. A celebration. A toast. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time they would actually see me. November 23rd, 2025. 6:08 in the evening. I arrived at Harrington Hall. The private dining room was called the Meridian Room. A long table set for 24. Name cards at every place setting. I found mine. Position 18. I was seated between my cousin Tom, a man I'd met perhaps once, and my cousin Julia at the far end of the table, nearly out of sight of the head. At the head of the table sat my father. To his right, my mother, then Rebecca's husband, Marcus. I was at the opposite end, essentially invisible. Julia leaned over and whispered, "Why are you all the way down here? Mom did the seating chart." Of course she did. During the cocktail hour, Rebecca stood near my father's chair showing relatives photos from the fundraiser on her phone. My mother worked the room, hugging everyone, accepting admiration. No one approached me except Julia, who whispered, "We need to talk after this." My father's longtime assistant, Diane, who caught my eye across the room and silently mouthed "I'm sorry," and Rebecca's 8-year-old daughter, Lily, who walked right up to me. "Aunt Clara, why do you have that mark on your neck?" "I had surgery, sweetheart." "Did it hurt?" "Yes. Mommy says you should cover scars at fancy dinners." I forced a smile. Sometimes scars are important to show. Rebecca overheard. Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, just for a fraction of a second, before it smoothed back over entirely. She took Lily by the hand and steered her away. At 6:42, my mother tapped her glass. "Everyone, please take your seats." I walked to position 18. When I bent to sit, a sharp pain fired through my left side. Still healing. I winced. Julia noticed immediately. "You okay?" "Fine." The appetizer course arrived. Butternut squash soup. I couldn't eat. My stomach was too tight. My mother stood and tapped her glass again. "Everyone, before we move to the main course, I want to say a few words about why we're all here tonight." She paused, letting the room settle completely around her. 3 months ago, we almost lost Thomas. Stage 4 kidney failure. The doctors told us without a transplant, he would be on dialysis for the rest of his life. It was the most frightening moment our family has ever faced. She let that breathe. But in that darkness, one person stepped forward. One person demonstrated extraordinary leadership, compassion, and genuine strength. My heart began pounding loudly in my own ears. That person organized a fundraiser that brought our entire community together. She raised over $83,000 for kidney disease research. She held this family together when I was falling apart. I looked at my father. He was staring at his plate. His jaw was rigid. My mother raised her glass and turned toward Rebecca with a radiant smile. So please raise your glasses with me. To Rebecca, my incredible daughter. The one who saved your father's life. My father's sister Margaret tried to interject. Claire, wait, I thought. But my mother spoke directly over her. To Rebecca. 22 glasses rose. The sound of crystal clinking moved around the table like a wave. My glass stayed on the table. I couldn't lift it. I couldn't move. Rebecca stood. She dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. The tears looked real. Thank you, Mom, she said, her voice breaking on cue. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But Dad is worth everything. Family is everything. Applause broke around the table. Marcus stood and clapped. He didn't know. He genuinely believed the fundraiser had been the primary contribution. He wouldn't learn the truth for weeks. My father's hand sat flat on the table. He was not clapping. My cousin beside me leaned over and said, "Your sister is absolutely amazing. You must be so proud of her." I couldn't respond. I just nodded. My vision was beginning to blur. She might as well have said real daughter. That's what I heard. I stood up. My chair scraped back against the floor. Several heads turned. I was heading for the door. And then my father's hand shot across and grabbed my wrist. His grip was surprisingly strong. I stopped. The entire table was watching now. My father's eyes locked onto mine. He was crying, silently. Without speaking, he slid a folded napkin across the table toward me with his other hand. He whispered so quietly only I could hear it. "Read it. Please don't leave yet." I picked up the napkin. My mother said, "Clara, are you all right?" I looked at her. My voice came out cold and completely controlled. "I'm fine, Mom. Just processing how generous Rebecca is." I sat back down. I unfolded the napkin in my lap, below the table, out of everyone's sight. I read it. The handwriting was my father's, shaky but unmistakably clear. I changed the medical proxy to you. September 16th. Life insurance, $2.3 million, your sole beneficiary. Filed September 18th. The business, 51% voting shares transferred to you. Executed September 20th. Filed with state September 25th. They don't know yet. Attorney Cole has everything. I'm sorry I waited so long. I see you now, Dad. I read it once, twice, 3 times. I looked up at my father. He gave the smallest possible nod. I folded the napkin carefully. I placed it in my purse. I took a breath and ate the rest of my dinner mechanically while conversations flowed around me as though I were furniture. Relatives congratulating Rebecca. Questions about the fundraiser, her leadership, her vision. I said nothing. At 8:45, dinner ended. I stood. I thanked my mother for hosting. I hugged my father and whispered against his ear, "I'll call you tomorrow." I walked out. In the parking lot, I sat in my car under the dome light and read the napkin again. He had changed everything. The day after my surgery, September 16th, while I was lying alone in a recovery bay asking for someone to come, he was signing a medical proxy. September 18th, the life insurance. September 20th, the shares. While they were planning Rebecca's publicity campaign, he was quietly transferring real power to me. 51% voting shares. Majority control. $2.3 million that my mother had believed was hers for 18 years. Medical proxy, decision-making authority over his own care. They don't know yet. My phone rang. My father. "Did you read it?" Yes. Why did you wait so long to tell me? His voice was quiet. I needed you to see what they would do at that dinner. I needed you to witness it yourself so you'd know you weren't imagining things. So you'd know this wasn't happening inside your head. They erased you on purpose, Clara. I was crying now. Use the power, he said. Fix what I broke, or burn it all down. Your choice. I'll support you either way. I drove home. There was a voicemail waiting from Richard Cole, the attorney. Ms. Bennett. Richard Cole returning your call. Yes, I've been waiting to hear from you. Your father told me you'd reach out after the family dinner. I can meet with you Monday, November 25th at 9 o'clock. Everything your father executed is ironclad, witnessed, notarized, properly filed. I'll walk you through it all. See you Monday. I played it 3 times. My father had planned every single step. Monday, November 25th. Cole and Associates, downtown Charlotte. Richard Cole was in his late 50s. Sharp eyes, direct manner, unhurried voice. Your father speaks very highly of you. He's never actually said that to me directly. Cole allowed a small smile. He mentioned that as well. He said he owes you 34 years of words he never managed to say. He's trying to make up for lost time. He opened the first folder. Durable Power of Attorney for Healthcare. Signed September 16, 2025 at 11:30 a.m. One day after my surgery. Witnessed by Dr. Patel and Sandra Mills, the hospital social worker. Notarized with official seal. I stared at the signature line. This replaces the previous power of attorney naming your mother, Cole said. You now have complete authority to make medical decisions for your father if he becomes incapacitated. He opened the second folder. The life insurance beneficiary change. $2.3 million death benefit. Signed September 18th. New beneficiary, Clara Bennett. 100%. This only requires the policyholder's signature, Cole said. Your father didn't need your mother's permission. The change has already been processed and is currently in effect. He opened the third folder. Jordan, Bennett Medical Distributors, Restricted Stock Transfer Agreement. Your father owned 68% of the company he founded. He transferred 51% of his voting shares to you. Kenneth, Thomas, retains 17% non-voting. Filed with the state on September 25th. He showed me the official filing. State seal. Filing number. My name in legal print as majority shareholder. Your mother holds 25%, non-voting. Your sister holds 7%, non-voting. He looked at me steadily. You have majority voting control. You can appoint or remove board members, remove officers, approve budgets, make operational decisions, including removing your mother and sister from their positions. The room felt like it was tilting very slowly. Cole handed me a sealed envelope. Your father asked me to give you this after you'd seen the documents. I opened the envelope. 2 pages of handwritten stationery. Clara, I have been a coward for 34 years. Your mother shaped me into one. That's what I tell myself. The truth is, I let her. I chose my own comfort over your dignity, her approval over your worth. I chose silence over truth for 3 decades. When you were 12, you found a photo album in my study. Pictures of my sister, Janet. She died in a car accident in 1983. She was 19 years old. You look exactly like her. Same eyes, same smile, same spirit. Your mother couldn't look at you without seeing Janet, without being reminded that I had loved someone before her, someone I had lost. She resented that. So she erased you. And I let her. I told myself I was keeping the peace. I told myself you were strong enough to handle it. I lied to myself for 34 years. Over 8 years, I sent you money when I could. Small amounts, without explanation. It was all I could manage without your mother auditing the accounts. She controlled everything. Except this. When I woke up the morning after surgery and they told me you had given me your kidney, I broke completely. I realized I had spent 34 years choosing my wife over my daughter. Choosing comfort over truth. Choosing silence. I can't undo 34 years. But I can give you the power I should have given you from the very start. The shares give you control. Fire your mother if you need to. Protect the company I built, or sell it and be free. I'll support whatever you choose. I just needed you to have the power I should have handed you 34 years ago. I love you. I'm sorry, Dad. Cole sat quietly while I finished reading. When I finally looked up, he said simply, "What do you want to do now?" "That's entirely up to you," he added. "But your father told me one thing when we finished the last document." He looked at me steadily. He said, "Wait until they show you exactly who they are. Then act." I wiped my eyes. "They showed me Saturday night." Cole nodded. "Then you know what to do." The first crack came on Saturday, November 29th. My mother called her insurance company to update a mailing address. The representative said, "I'll need to verify your beneficiary information." "That's me," my mother said. Clara, Mrs. Bennett." "Ma'am, according to our records, you are no longer the listed beneficiary on this policy." The change was effective September 18th. "That's impossible." "Who is the beneficiary?" "Clara M. Bennett." Silence. "There must be an error." "No, ma'am. We have the signed beneficiary change form on file. Would you like a copy mailed to you?" My mother hung up and immediately called my father screaming. "You changed the insurance behind my back. After 42 years of marriage." My father's voice was completely calm. "It's done, Claire. Clara donated the organ. Clara gets the policy. You changed it without telling me. The same way you erased her at that dinner without telling her she'd be invisible in her own family. We both made choices." My mother threatened to contest it. My father reminded her the policy was entirely his to control. She didn't need to be consulted. She hung up and called her own attorney. Monday, December 1st. Rebecca was reviewing the updated board materials for an upcoming executive committee meeting when she saw it. Shareholder Registry. Updated September 25, 2025. Thomas Bennett, 17%, non-voting. Claire Bennett, 25%, non-voting. Rebecca Bennett Harmon, 7%, non-voting. Clara M. Bennett, 51%, voting. Rebecca read it 3 times. Then she grabbed the filing, drove to my parents' house, and walked directly into my father's study. "What is this?" She held the document up. "She doesn't know anything about running a business. She works at a nonprofit making $37,000 a year." My father looked at her without moving. "She's my daughter. And she saved my life. I raised $83,000. "You raised your profile," my father said. "Clara gave me her kidney. Those are not the same thing." Rebecca's voice cracked. "So you're punishing me for not being a genetic match?" "I'm recognizing her for being invisible for 34 years while you took everything that was on offer." That evening, Rebecca and my mother sat at Rebecca's dining table surrounded by printed documents, strategizing. "The life insurance is his to control," my mother said. "I can't contest it without proving incompetence or coercion. Neither applies." "What about the shares?" "Not legally challengeable. He's the founder. He can distribute as he chooses." "So Clara just gets everything." My mother's voice went cold. "Unless we make her fail. If she attempts to run the company and destroys it, the board can potentially vote her out. She has 51%. If she appears incompetent, we build a case. We undermine every decision. Turn the staff against her. Leaked to industry press that the company is in chaos. From the doorway, Rebecca's husband Marcus spoke quietly. He had been standing there for longer than either of them realized. You're planning to sabotage your own family member? Rebecca turned. She's sabotaging us. Marcus's voice stayed quiet. No. Your father chose the daughter who gave him a kidney over the daughter who took credit for it. There's a meaningful difference between those two things. He walked out of the room. That was the first visible crack in Rebecca's marriage. On December 2nd, my mother called me. We need to discuss your father's decisions. What about them? You manipulated a sick man into signing away his assets while he was sedated and vulnerable. I didn't know about any of it until after the dinner. Not one document. Convenient story. You donate a kidney, play the martyr, and collect the reward. Very calculated. I'm hanging up now. You think you can run a medical supply company? You'll destroy it within 6 months. And when you do, we'll take it back. I paused. Is that a threat, Mom? It's a fact. You're out of your depth. You always have been. We'll see. I hung up. On December 5th, I called the hospital medical records department and requested a complete copy of my donor file from the surgery through discharge. 3 days later, I picked up a thick manila envelope. Sitting at my kitchen table, I spread the pages out and began reading. Surgical notes. Discharge summary. Medication records. And then, stapled in the middle of the stack, an ethics committee review, dated August 20th, 2025. There was an incident report attached. August 18th, 2025. 2:15 in the afternoon. Claire Bennett, patient's mother, presented to my office requesting consultation. Mrs. Bennett stated, "Is there any way to delay this donation or find another donor? Clara isn't stable enough for something like this." When asked to clarify, Mrs. Bennett stated Clara had emotional issues and was doing this for attention, not for genuine care. I explained the donor had passed all required psychological evaluations. Mrs. Bennett insisted I take a closer look at the donor's mental state. Per protocol, I have documented this conversation and reported it to the Transplant Ethics Committee. Sandra Mills, LCSW. I kept reading. Ethics Committee meeting notes. August 20th. Committee interviewed donor Clara Bennett separately. Donor is fully informed, psychologically stable, and donating entirely voluntarily. Mother's stated concerns appear to stem from controlling family dynamics rather than any legitimate medical concern. Proceeding with donation as scheduled. Mother's attempt to interfere has been noted in file. I sat completely still for a long time. My mother had tried to stop the donation. 3 days after I tested as a compatible match, she had walked into the social worker's office and attempted to have me labeled emotionally unstable. She tried to have them find a different donor. She had tried to stop me from saving my father's life. I called Sandra Mills the following morning. "Ms. Mills, this is Clara Bennett. I received my complete medical records yesterday. There's an ethics committee report regarding my mother's visit in August." A careful pause. "Yes. I can discuss your own medical documentation with you." She came to your office on August 18th and attempted to stop my donation. That's accurate. I documented it and reported it to the ethics committee per hospital protocol. Why? Sandra's voice became very gentle. "Clara, I want you to know, the committee saw through it completely. We interviewed you separately. You were entirely sound. What your mother did was unusual. In 15 years of this work, I've seen families pressure donors to go through with it. I have never seen a mother attempt to prevent her own daughter from saving her father's life." I closed my eyes. Can these records be used in other contexts? Corporate governance, for example. They're your medical records. You can use them however you need to. They're signed, time-stamped, and carry official hospital documentation. Thank you, Sandra. You documented this when it mattered. Good luck with whatever you're planning, Clara. December 16, 2025. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Bennett Medical Distributors. 4th floor conference room. Quarterly board meeting. 7 board members present. My mother as CFO. Rebecca as VP of Operations. My father as Chairman Emeritus. Me as majority shareholder, attending for the first time in my life. I arrived in a navy blazer and white blouse. I was still wearing my hospital ID bracelet from September. I had kept it. I wore it deliberately. My scar was visible above my collar. I walked to the head of the table. My mother was already seated in that chair. I didn't say a word. I simply stood beside it and looked at her. She moved. I sat down. Clara, my mother said, her voice carefully controlled. You don't typically attend these meetings. I'm the majority shareholder, I said. I thought it was time to start. Silence spread around the table. Board members exchanged quiet glances. I slid the official state filing across the table. Filed September 25 with the Secretary of State. You can verify it independently. I hold 51% voting shares. Douglas Marsh, one of the board members, looked at my father. Is this accurate, Thomas? Yes, my father said quietly. I transferred shares to Clara in late September. It's legal and final. I opened my folder. Before we proceed with the agenda, I need to correct something in the October board minutes. I looked directly at my mother. Mom, you implied to this board that Rebecca was central to Dad's recovery. I'd like to correct the official record. I slid documents to the company attorney, Philip Garrett, and to each board member. I donated my left kidney to my father on September 15, 2025. This is my hospital discharge summary. This is my donor compatibility report, 97% match, tested July 28. This is the surgical record showing the living donor procedure. I pulled my collar slightly to one side. The scar was fully visible now. Pink, raised, undeniable. I lost 8 weeks of income. I have permanent medical monitoring requirements for life. I have over $11,000 in out-of-pocket costs. And I have this scar. Board members stared. My mother's face had gone white. Rebecca was looking at the table. My father's eyes were closed. At the family recovery dinner on November 23, I continued, my mother toasted Rebecca for saving Dad's life. 22 people raised their glasses to my sister. No one mentioned my name. I sat at position 18 wearing this scar, completely invisible. Douglas Marsh was reading through the medical documents. His expression changed. I laid out the final set of papers. I also have documentation that my mother attempted to prevent my donation entirely. I slid Sandra Mills's incident report across the table. The Ethics Committee notes. August 18, 2025. My mother went privately to the hospital social worker and asked whether there was any way to delay or redirect the donation. She described me as emotionally unstable. She said I was doing it for attention. The Transplant Ethics Committee investigated her claims and cleared me completely. Jessica Howard, the HR director, was taking notes. Her hand was visibly trembling. Douglas Marsh looked at my mother. Mrs. Bennett, is this account accurate? That was taken entirely out of context. My mother's voice was very tight. I was simply expressing concern for Clara's well-being. The social worker documented your exact words, I said. And the ethics committee concluded your concerns reflected controlling family dynamics, not any legitimate medical issue. That assessment is now part of the official hospital record. Philip Garrett, the company attorney, spoke carefully. Claire, did you attempt to interfere with a scheduled medical procedure? My mother did not answer. I let the silence sit for a full 10 seconds. Then I stood. Which brings me to why I'm here today. My voice was steady. I am exercising my authority as majority shareholder. Effective immediately, I am removing Claire Bennett from her position as Chief Financial Officer, pending investigation into financial management and ethics violations. My mother stood. You cannot. I can. I hold 51% voting authority. Company Bylaws, Article 7, Section 3. Majority shareholder may remove officers with or without cause. Philip, can you confirm? Philip Garrett consulted the document in front of him. That's correct. I turned to Rebecca. Rebecca Bennett Harmon, you have 48 hours to choose between two options. Option 1. Accept a restructured role as Senior Manager, Special Projects, at a salary of $92,000 annually. Option 2. Discuss a severance arrangement with HR. You have until Thursday at 5 o'clock to decide. Rebecca was crying silently. I am requesting a formal board vote to approve these changes. As majority shareholder, I don't technically require approval, but I want this on record. Douglas Marsh said, I move to approve the removal of Claire Bennett as CFO and the restructuring of the executive team. Another board member said, second. Philip said, all in favor? 5 hands went up. My father abstained. One board member, my mother's longtime ally, abstained. Motion carries. I picked up my folder. Meeting adjourned. Mom, please collect your personal belongings from your office by end of day. Rebecca, report to Jessica with your decision by Thursday. I walked out. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard the room erupt. My mother's voice, high and shrill. Thomas, how could you let her do this? And my father's voice, firm and quiet, for the first time in 34 years. Because I let her fix what I broke. The week that followed was a whirlwind of consequences. My mother moved out of the family home on December 17th and stayed with Rebecca. She hired an attorney to contest the share transfer. Her attorney reviewed the documents and called her on December 19th. Mrs. Bennett, these documents are ironclad. Witnessed, notarized, properly filed. You have no legal basis to challenge them. If you pursue this, you will lose and you will pay court costs. My advice, don't. On December 19th, Rebecca's husband Marcus came home from work and pulled her aside. Did you know it was Clara who donated the kidney? Not organized the fundraiser, actually donated the organ. Rebecca's voice was small. It's complicated. I stood at that dinner and applauded you. I looked like an idiot. What is wrong with you? That was the beginning of the end of their marriage. On December 20th, Rebecca met with Jessica Howard and chose option 1. She would take the demotion and stay. On December 23rd, I received a certified letter. My mother was filing for divorce. I called my father. Dad, I'm sorry. Don't be, he said. His voice was very calm. This should have happened 20 years ago. I'm finally free. December 30th. 11:14 at night. A knock at my apartment door. I opened it. Rebecca. Visibly intoxicated. Mascara streaked down her face. A coat pulled over her pajamas. She pushed past me and collapsed onto my couch. She made me this way, Clara, she said, her voice breaking. Mom. She told me since I was 6 years old that I was the special one, that I had to be perfect, that you were Dad's mistake. I stood in the middle of my own living room and didn't sit. Do you know what it's like? Being the golden child. Every achievement, every promotion, it was never enough. She always needed more. And you, Rebecca's voice cracked. You got to leave. You got to be yourself. I wasn't free, I said. I was erased. I know. I know that now. She looked up at me. Her face was completely wrecked. I didn't know she tried to stop your donation. I swear to you. When Marcus showed me the board meeting documentation, when I read what she actually did, Rebecca stopped. I threw up, Clara. My own mother tried to prevent you from saving Dad's life. I sat down, Not beside her, but across from her. The fundraiser, Rebecca said. She told me to do it. September 17th, 2 days after your surgery. She said, Natalie, Rebecca, we need to control the narrative. If Clara gets credit for this, she'll use it against us. I said, against us? She saved Dad. She said, she'll hold it over our heads. We need a counter-narrative. So you organized a party and took credit for my surgery? Yes. Rebecca's voice was barely audible. And when Marcus found out, he looked at me like I was a monster. She wiped her face with her sleeve. My therapist, I started seeing someone after the board meeting. She said I've been emotionally manipulated by Mom my entire life. That being the golden child is its own kind of prison. It explains it, I said. It doesn't excuse it. No, she said. It doesn't. She stood to leave. At the door, she turned back. Can I ask you something? What? Why did you do it? Donate the kidney. After everything we did to you. I thought about it for a moment. Because he's my dad. And I loved him. Even when he didn't protect me. Even when he allowed them to erase me. That doesn't just go away because people hurt you. Rebecca's voice dropped to barely a whisper. You're better than me. No, I said. I just made different choices. She left. I closed the door and leaned against it. And for the first time since all of this started, I cried. Not from pain. Not from rage. From relief and grief and sheer exhaustion. My cat came and pressed against my ankles. I picked her up and sat down on the floor and let myself feel everything, all of it, at once. On January 15, 2026, I hired an external CEO for Bennett Medical Distributors. Patricia Hines, 52 years old. Former VP at a major national medical supply company. 26 years of industry experience. No ties to my family whatsoever. The board approved unanimously. I transitioned to board chair. I kept my 51% shares. I took a salary of $95,000 annually. I also kept my part-time position at Second Chance Scholars, 20 hours a week. I loved that work. I wasn't willing to give it up. I used my first company paycheck to pay off my entire medical debt. All $11,400. And then I created something new, the Living Donor Support Fund. Bennett Medical Distributors would contribute $50,000 annually to help living organ donors with out-of-pocket medical costs and lost income during recovery. The first recipient was a 28-year-old woman named Rachel. She had donated a kidney to her brother and lost her job during recovery. I handed her a check for $5,000. She looked at it for a long moment, then looked at me. You did this. Someone should have done it for me, I said. Now we do it for others. On February 14th, I met my father for dinner. Just the two of us, at a small diner near the hospital where everything had started. Are you okay? He asked. I'm getting there. Are you? I'm proud of you. I should have said that every day for 34 years. I looked at him steadily. You should have. He nodded. I know. We ate in silence for a moment. Then I said, I don't forgive you yet. Not for all those years. But I'm trying to understand the difference between those two things. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just want to know you're going to be all right. I'm building something real, I said. The company. The fund. My life. I'm not invisible anymore. He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. You were never invisible to me. I just didn't know how to make you visible to them without losing everything. I chose wrong for 34 years. But I chose right in the end. I looked at him. That's something, I said. March 12, 2026. 6 months after the surgery. My mother lives in Florida now. We have minimal contact. The divorce is pending, finalized sometime next December. Rebecca works as a project manager at a different medical company in Charlotte. She earns $78,000 annually. She's in therapy twice a week and marriage counseling with Marcus. I don't know if they'll make it. We haven't spoken in 3 months. My father is healthy. Kidney function stable at 92%. He lives alone in a small apartment. He sold the family house and split the proceeds with my mother per the separation agreement. We have coffee together every Sunday. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. I can afford it now. I have $12,000 in savings for the first time in my adult life. My medical debt is gone. The scar is still there. 6 inches, pink and raised. It aches sometimes when the temperature drops. I don't hide it anymore. Today, I'm at my office at Second Chance Scholars. A young woman named Stephanie came in this afternoon. She's 24 years old. She wants to donate a kidney to her father, but her family is pressuring her to step aside for her sister, who they consider more responsible despite being a worse biological match. I want to donate, she told me. But my family doesn't think I should. I rolled up my sleeve and showed her the scar. The surgery is the straightforward part, I said. It's what comes after. Making sure people actually see your sacrifice. That's the real battle. Her eyes filled immediately. What if they don't see me? What if I do this and they still choose her? Then you'll know, I said. And you'll have the power to choose yourself. That's what the scar teaches you in the end. You survived. You can survive anything. She nodded. She thanked me and left. I sat there for a quiet moment after she walked out. I felt something settle inside my chest. Not revenge. Not bitterness. Something closer to purpose. I'm turning my pain into protection for someone else. That's what healing actually looks like. At the end of the day, I walk to my car. It's a March evening, nearly 6:30. The air is cold. I can see my breath. My phone buzzes. A text from my father. Coffee Sunday? I text back, always. Another buzz. Diane, Dad's longtime assistant. Board materials ready for Monday. Patricia's doing an incredible job. I respond, thank you. I stop beside my car. I catch my reflection in the window. I see the scar. I see myself. Not invisible. Not erased. Not the golden child. Not the forgotten one. Just Clara. Survivor. Protector. Free. I get in the car and drive away. The scar will always be there. But so will I.